Good evening, everybody. It's John here from Tutor to You. Happy New Year to all of our regular watchers and listeners. Welcome along to another of our Economics A-Level live stream, and tonight we are concentrating on oligopoly. Now the idea is to try and run these live stream events once a week, and we're going to try and go every week right the way up to the exam pretty much. So do join us every week if you can. It'd be lovely to see you. Looking down at the screen, all of you have joined us already. We are discussing oligopoly tonight. We're going to do a load of fast-paced activities on oligopolies, and we've already got a few ollies there in the chat window. Welcome to all of the ollies for the oligopoly revision blast tonight. Now, of course, I'm joined as always by a couple of wonderful teachers, experts, and people who know a lot about the subjects that we're talking about. So I've got Jeff on the left-hand side of the screen, and I've got Penny on the right-hand side of the screen. Good evening, both.
Good evening, John.
Nice to see everybody.
Right, we'll get cracking in a second. Just to remind everybody that the presentation that we're using tonight, the PowerPoint presentation that we are using, will be available to download as soon as we've finished. If you find tonight useful, please do give us a thumbs up in YouTube as we go along. That helps us get our message out there. And of course, this is being recorded, so you can always watch over this again. And of course, there will be some people who are watching this on replay, so welcome to you. You can take your time over some of these questions. Right, I'll hand over to Jeff, who I think is going to do the first question for us. Here we go.
Okay, thank you, John. We have 4 multiple choice questions to start off with. And if you get a chance, take a moment to post your answer in the chat window. We'll try and see who can give a shout out, the people who get the right answer. Just have a go at these 4 past exam questions. Question number 1. Which of the following characteristics is always present in an oligopoly? So there are your 4 options: non-price competition, interdependence between firms, collusion, and price stability. Now we have 200 people in the live stream. What do we think here? Which of these is always present? Just to give you a clue here, give you a little clue. The answer is either A, B, C, or D. Okay, loads of answers coming through. Toby and Mika, George, Danlex, Kid and Kathy, they all have the right answer. Pete's got the right answer. Here it comes up. Shout out to Wally Barnes, who wanted his teacher to know that he was here tonight, making good his New Year's resolution to work hard on his economics, we think. Yeah, interdependence. Now, really important, this very quickly here. All of those features can happen in oligopoly. A lot of non-price competition, a lot of advertising, for example, which later on in this session we'll use game theory to discuss. Collusion is possible. Again, we'll talk about that today. There might be periods of price stability, but it's interdependence that is an embedded characteristic of this market structure. Here's the question number 2. Coming up on the screen, when firms verbally agree to fix high prices, what is this an example of? So when firms verbally agree to fix high prices, what do we think this is an example of? During the course of this session tonight, we'll be trying to post some contributions, some ideas and thoughts, and they'll appear at the bottom of your screen. We can't pick out everybody, but we'll do our best to pick out some good answers. So the answers coming through, Ollie and Toby are coming through with the right answer, and Joe and Leah. Welcome, by the way, to everybody, to our team of economists. Okay, what do we think here? Verbal agreement to fix high prices. Here's the answer coming up on the screen for you. And well done to everybody got it right. And including Cade and Summer, overt collusion. We'll come on to predatory pricing in a second. Limit pricing is when you set a price sufficiently low to make a new firm coming in almost guaranteed to make a loss. Now, that is not illegal. Tacit collusion, of course, is unspoken collusion, where firms essentially agree not to compete, associated with the price leadership model. Here's question 3 coming up on the screen. A likely consequence of a change in market structure from perfect competition to oligopoly would be what? Now, take a moment on this one. This is a harder question. So if we move from competitive market towards oligopoly, perhaps the presence of merger and takeover, what do we think is likely to be a consequence of that change in the market structure? Less interdependence, rise in contestability, the introduction of non-price competition, lower opportunities for scale economies. Some good answers coming through. One or two people saying A here. George and Imi, Abby, Fergus, Nathan and Leo have all got the right answer along with Kathy. There's Will's answer. It is indeed C. Here's a quick confirmation. Non-price competition is one of the really strong features of oligopoly. Now, crucially, make sure you revise the nature of non-price competition, the costs of advertising, the benefits of marketing, all that kind of stuff. We've got a really nice game theory example of that coming up just in a few minutes' time. And here's our last multiple choice question. A competition authority may suspect that predatory pricing by a dominant firm is taking place. If what? So you need to know the difference between limit pricing and predatory pricing. Predatory pricing is illegal if the competition authorities can prove it. And there's actually relatively few examples of predatory pricing over recent times, in recent vintage. It's very hard to prove. So when might a competition authority suspect that dominant firm, but that dominant firm is a firm with more than 40% of the market? Loads of answers coming through. Nathan is super confident. He's posted his answer 20 times in the chat window. Elise has got the right answer. And it's D. James, well done as well to you. Price set below ABC. Now, the really key point here, Olivia has got the right answer. Well, Olivia. If you're pricing below average variable cost, you're essentially pricing below your shutdown point. So you're guaranteeing yourself a loss, a heavy loss. Of course, the idea is to drive firms out of the market so you can then raise price, increase your margins going forward. Hey, well done to everybody. If you've got 4, that's a great start. Let's pass over to Penny for the next exercise.
Thanks very much, Jeff. And yes, I think there must be quite a few of you on 4 out of 4 so far. So let's see if we can keep that up through the rest of this live stream. So what we're doing now is switching focus a bit, and actually doing a little bit of context work. So we're looking for some application and also a bit of your numerical skills coming to the fore. So we've got some data here, and you can see that this is the UK grocery market share for 2 years, 2013 and 2023. And then there's just a mini extract about the supermarkets reporting a marked increase in sales for the 12-week period running up to Christmas 2023. If you've been following the news, and I hope you have, then you might have picked up on this already. So spending on groceries in the UK increased by nearly 7% during that period, compared with the same time the year before in 2022. So here's your question. Using the 5-firm concentration ratio calculations, comment on the level of competition in the UK grocery market between 2013 and 2023. So take a moment, have a very good look, a careful look at the data that you've got there for the market shares. Make sure you're looking at the right column. You can see which one's 2013 and which one is 2023. Do the calculation, please, for the 5-firm concentration ratio. So we want some numbers in your answers, but we also want a comment. Okay, so the question is asking you to comment on the level of competition. And this doesn't limit you to only the 5-firm concentration ratio. Certainly do that. When you think you know what that is, let's see it in the chat window. But we would like a comment on that as well. And then any other comments that you can think of based on the data that's there. Okay, so hopefully you've got your calculators to hand so that you can start coming in with the 5-firm concentration ratio. I'm waiting for somebody to post that, and let's see what it was in 2013, it was in 2023, and then what's the comment? What's the point of interest that you can find to comment on? Okay, so Aniket is saying 8% decrease in the ratio between 2013 and 2023. You might want to just check that you've got the right years there. Okay. Let's just check your numbers. So we're looking for the 5-firm concentration ratio. Conveniently, you've got the 5 largest competitors at the top of the table there. Okay. So let's see. Pete, I can see, and some others coming in with some better numbers here. Okay, Victor is saying in 2013 it was 66%, in 2023 it was 76%. Okay, so they've taken a larger market share. Thank you, Victor, that's a nice comment as well. The firms make up a larger market share compared with that of 2013, signalling maybe less contestability. Maybe so. Yeah, okay, less competition, says M. Less competitive as the concentration ratio has fallen. Has it fallen or has it risen? Okay, so let's put up the comment that we've got about the competition, the concentration ratio here for you to take a look at. Okay, so there you go. In 2013, it was 66%. So remember I said make sure you're looking at the right column here. The middle column on the table there is 2013, and the right-hand column is 2023. So there we can see it's increased. It was 66%, and now it's 76%. So a number of you suggesting that that is a much more concentrated market than it was before. Well done if you've picked that one up. Significantly less competitive. But then maybe you've not yet had a chance to go on and look at some other comments you might make on that. But let's have a look at all of that data and another couple of suggestions here. The proportion of the market share for Aldi and Lidl, if you add their market share together, in 2013 it was 8%. It's doubled by 2023. They've got 16%. So they have also taken a big increase in their market share. And think about the pressure that puts on the big 5 in terms of the pricing and the main area of competition against Aldi and Lidl, and what impact that might have on the pricing for the likes of Tesco, Sainsbury's and Asda. And then we can also see, if we look down at the bottom row, well, we can see that Other supermarkets, back in 2013, had 26% of the market. Wow, by 2023, they've only got 12%. So that massive decrease in their market share, again, has a big impact on the contestability of the market, as a number of you have commented. So there's some really good practice for you there. One, it gives you some current data on a micro market, which is really useful. Try and keep that in your mind. But also, it gives you maybe some ideas of how you can manipulate the data, how you can use that data, not just to report the numbers, but also do a little bit of analysis and comment on what's going on behind the numbers there. So very good work there. Well done. Thanks very much. And I'm going to hand you back to Jeff now for some bubble quiz questions.
So bubble quiz, my favourites. Yeah, thanks, John. I'm a bit of a technical wizard here. Okay, so the bubble quiz, four questions. For each question, we give you 4 answers, and you have to decide how many of the answers are correct. And if you get a chance, post the letters in the chat window. By the way, just thinking back to the supermarket example, I don't know if you know this, John and Betty, but I bought myself for Christmas a little one of the deep discounts as a little cuddly horse at a very discounted price, and that's now become my little pony. Question number 1: which of the following scenarios are more likely to make a cartel successful? Now, this is a great. Appreciate that. Every little helps. Which of the following scenarios are more likely to make a cartel successful in the long term? Now, which of these do you think are right? Take a moment to read them through. Nathan thinks C and D. Barriers to entry are low. Legislation against cartels is ineffective. Demand for cartel's products is price inelastic. The cartel produces a homogeneous product. Which of these are more likely to make a cartel more effective in the long run? What do we think on this one? Fergus thinks C and D. Alice thinks B, C, D. Let's see if a few answers come through. Then we'll talk through our suggested answers. Tech support. George, B, C are right. Let's check. Here's the answer coming through. And indeed, the answer is B and C. Just very quickly, let me explain this for you. Entry barriers are low. That means new firms are more likely to come in. Legislation against cartels, clearly, if competition policy doesn't work, form of government failure, of course, or regulatory failure. Demand for cartels products inelastic. That means they can keep prices high, and there's an incentive to keep prices high because their total revenues will keep going up if you have a low coefficient of price elasticity on. Homogeneous product, it's not really a fundamental factor in the long run. It's a reason why it's easy to measure the output. But B and C are by far the most important factors that keep cartels together. Okay, next one. Next bubble quiz question. Now, this is a great question. Dominant firms anticipate there will be new entrants to their market. Which of the following scenarios is likely to reduce the chance of new firms entering the market? So you've got an oligopoly. Which of the following scenarios is likely to lower the chance of hit and run entry of new firms coming into the market? So this is where oligopoly meets contestability. Now, what do we think? Loads of answers potentially coming through here. We've got over 200 people in the live chat, so it'll take a little while for the answers to feed through. What will reduce the chances of new firms entering the market? Existing firms raise their prices. Existing firms carry out more advertising. Existing firms lower their prices. And the government introduces more regulation in the industry. So James thinks it's B, C, D. George, A and B. Just choose a few more coming through. What do we think here? Chris thinks B, C, D. Sheila says B, C, D. Olivia confirms it. Let's check what we think our answers are. And we think the correct answer is coming from the screen. Indeed, B, C, D. For existing firms raise their prices, of course, that potentially increases profits and gives an even greater incentive for new firms to come in. But B, C, and D are all effectively ways of making it more expensive or less profitable for new firms to come into the market. Superb. Next one coming up. Question number 3 on our bubble quiz. Okay, which of the following are possible reasons for the collapse of collusive agreements within an oligopoly? So collusion, a lot of economists love writing that cartels often collapse. Collusive agreements often come to an abrupt sudden end. Which of the following of those are possible reasons why collusion often comes to an end? The existence of any differentiated goods, firms have excellent leaders, wide differences in production costs of participating firms, and a large number of participants. What do we think for the cartel question? Answers coming up on the screen. James thinks C and D. A lot of people actually just going for C and D. Nathan thinks C and D. Elise thinks C and D. Here's our answer coming up. And the correct answer is A, C, D. Well, C and D, I think we can agree, can't we? B is largely irrelevant. The existence of differentiated goods. Yeah, if you have lots of differentiated goods, then it's likely that no one firm will have actually many substantial brand loyalty. And a new firm coming in, for example, could easily siphon off a new firm coming in who's not a member of a cartel, plays by different rules, maybe has different business objectives. It could be the case with lots of product differentiation that consumers are more likely to switch demand. It makes demand more price elastic, and that can undermine the cartel. I think we have one more, do we, John? One more bubble quiz question. Final question of the bubble quiz. Which of these are examples of innocent barriers to entry? So which of these are examples that are regarded as innocent entry barriers? Don't forget, of course, in oligopoly, barriers to entry are super important. Okay, it's a major reason why the existing firms in pharmaceuticals and telecoms, in retail, can continue to earn supernormal profits. So which of these are innocent barriers to entry? Aniket thinks A, C, and D. James thinks A and D. Let's see if there's a little difference of opinion coming through. Ollie thinks A and D. Fergus agrees. Nathan and Leo coming in quite, there seems to be a consensus A and D. Let's have a look at the answer. The answer is only D. Let's go through. Patents are not innocent. Patents are strategic barriers to entry. You spend money researching a new product and you apply for a patent. That is not an innocent entry barrier. It's a strategic barrier to entry. Predatory pricing, we talked about, of course, it's illegal, but it's not innocent. Extensive advertising, likewise, it's a deliberate decision. Sunk cost tells you something about the nature of the industry. Cost that can't be recovered in whole or in part if a new firm leaves the market or if a business leaves the industry. So a sunk cost is an innocent barrier to entry, which makes a market less contestable. Back to Penny.
Thanks very much, Jeff. And what we're going to do now is bring back the connection spinner, which maybe we haven't seen on the live streams for a while, but it's making a welcome return. And we're focusing particularly here on collusion. So that aspect of market structure of oligopoly, which is specific to oligopolies. Okay, so we're wondering what's the likely impact of collusion in an oligopoly market on, and it could be any one of those areas that are listed up on the screen around the center. So we're going to put a little hand on here, and it's going to spin round and stop at random on one of those. Okay, consumer welfare. So here's your question. What's the likely impact of collusion, that's the cause, in an oligopoly market on consumer welfare? That's the effect that we're looking for, is the effect on consumer welfare. So have a quick think about that. And let's see if you can type in maybe a couple of bullet points into the chat screen on what you think would be the effects of collusion in an oligopoly on consumer welfare. So you've got to think about what consumer welfare means and how it's going to be affected. Is it positive or negative for consumers? And if you decide it's negative, then why? And there's a couple of people already coming in saying they're spending more. So, oh, I lost it. Sorry, they're going to be spending more, so they're going to be broke. Well, yes, okay. So then someone else goes on to say consumer welfare decreases as prices will increase with collusion, negatively impact consumer welfare, says Pete. Likely higher prices than competitive prices. Good. Yeah, there seems to be a pretty clear consensus here that consumer welfare is going to be damaged. And it's because of prices increasing with collusion. Let's have a look at the suggested answer that we've got for you here. I think we're going to be much on the same lines. Yeah, absolutely right. Consumer welfare is likely to reduce, we're suggesting, as firms collude to keep prices high and may restrict output. So remember, there's the two aspects there to collusion. It may restrict output, meaning that consumers have less choice. Okay, good. Nice thinking. So we're going to spin the spinner again. Let's see. Give it a random spin again, please, John. You've got the same 6 options. Where's it going to end up this time? Hopefully it won't land on consumer welfare again, because we've done that one. But which one are we looking at? Okay, supernormal profits in the market. So what's the likely impact of collusion in an oligopoly on supernormal profits in the market? Again, what are your opinions here? So here we're looking at a different part of the market, aren't we? Instead of looking at consumers, we're looking at different players in the market. We're looking probably at the producers, at those who are colluding, and perhaps other producers as well. Okay, what is the likely impact of collusion in an oligopoly market on supernormal profits in the industry? Have any books? So I can see. Okay. Supernormal profits will increase, says Hassan. Say lots of people. George is saying they'll increase as prices are set high. Supernormal profits will increase. Much more supernormal profits in the market, says Christopher. Easier to achieve for firms that colluded, says Margot. Very good. That's a very good point. We maybe need to separate out the firms that are part of the collusion, but what about the businesses which are not, that are outside that collusive agreement? Okay, again, let's have a look at our suggested answer for you here. And yeah, of course, it's going to follow the lines that most of you are taking. They're likely to increase specifically, though, for the firms involved, as they collude to keep prices high and or to reduce costs by paying lower prices to suppliers or reducing advertising. It could be any of those 3 sort of lines that they take with their collusion. But bear in mind that profit for other firms is likely to fall. Okay, so some very good answers there, some nice practice on starting to build up a bit of analysis of extending your reasoning. Let's have a good look at game theory now with Jeff.
Okay, thanks, Penny. Yeah, just before we look at this example, this question, everybody, just looking at that question on the collusion and consumer welfare, 1 or 2 students in the chat talked about allocative efficiency, talked about consumer surplus, and that always lifts the answer. If you can bring in those concepts, that just is a different ball game. Now, here's a game theory example. So this grid shows the payoffs for 2 firms competing for the same customers. So it's a classic 2-firm, 2-choice game theory scenario. And they're deciding whether to launch an expensive advertising campaign. Now, I guess the payoffs here are probably expected profits. By the way, for your exam in May and June, particularly if you're at Excel, but other boards as well, just make sure you have 2 game theory examples in your revision notes. One is a pricing game, a prisoner's dilemma pricing game, high price, low price. And the other one could well be this example. This will be a terrific non-price game theory example to use. And if this works for you in the next 2 minutes, add it to your revision notes. So which of the strategies is dominant and why? So A, B, C, or D, what is the likely dominant strategy for one or both of these firms in this game theory situation? So do you advertise? Do you go ahead with a big marketing plan, or do you don't advertise, you hold back? So do both firms advertise? Do both firms not advertise? What do we think? The payoff matrix, of course, firm A is on the left-hand side, firm B is on the right-hand side. So Margot says A. Quickly and firmly gone for A as an option. Migame or whatever, Migame. There you go. Oh, was there an explanation there, John? I was going to read through the explanation. James is gone for A. Yes, always good if there's a little bit of explanation. Here we go. A is both of the firms want to set prices high to receive high profits. Well, the key, really good point. gamer, but this is an advertising game. So be careful when you use the word price, where this is just basically an advertising spend game. Chris Wood, A is the most dominant strategy here, both benefiting from this. Agreed. Just leave it for a few more seconds. We might get another answer or two coming through. Most people saying A, just looking for a really good. Victor, dominant strategy is A, so advertisers will maximize payoffs given the choices of other firms. Because, of course, if you know that if they advertise and you don't, so for example, firm A doesn't advertise and firm B does, firm B ends up with 9 and firm B ends up with 24. So that really good answer there from Victor. Maximize the payoffs given the choices or the strategy of the other firms. Here's the right answer coming up on the screen for you. And the answer is, can we go back, John? The answer is A. Let me quickly explain this. It is indeed for both firms to advertise, because if they don't advertise, there's an incentive for the other firm to advertise and pick up some extra profit, maybe squeeze some extra supernormal profit. Now, crucially, it's their best interests. Both of them could improve by not spending on advertising. So if you just think of a very simple example here, if you think of the likes of Sky or TNT Sports or the big pharmaceutical companies, if they could all agree collusively to just cut the advertising spend, that would bring down their fixed costs and their profits would go up. But of course, in game theory terms, you need that advertising to reinforce brand loyalty as a protective measure and so on. So oftentimes firms spend more on advertising than they should because of game theory. So my strong advice is for the exam, have a good game theory example of a pricing decision, high price, low price. And this would be a terrific example to use for your revision notes for May and June of a non-price game theory example. You only need one of each for the exam. So well done, everybody, for some great answers, in particular Victor's answer there. Over to Penny.
Thanks very much. Okay, so finally, we're going to give you an on balance question and encourage you to be thinking here about positives and negatives or advantages and disadvantages, two sides of an argument, so that you can be analysing from two different perspectives and then leave the opportunity maybe for some evaluation, which we're not going to go into now, but that would be the next stage to go to. Okay. So here's your question. Outline an advantage and a disadvantage for consumers of oligopoly markets. So obviously oligopoly is what we're talking about. And here we're looking particularly at the consumers. That's the sort of economic actor that we're focusing in on. And I'm sure we could all very quickly come up with one disadvantage, but I'm going to ask you first to think about advantages. So can you think of an advantage for consumers of an oligopoly market? Think maybe of some of those oligopoly markets that we're used to. You might think about the banks, supermarkets. What else might you think about? Maybe airlines, the utility services. What advantages? So Hassan, I can see you're coming in with disadvantages, but I'm asking you for advantages first. We can come back to the disadvantages afterwards. So Nathan is saying, okay, product differentiation due to increased R&D. Yep, that's a possibility. How are they funding that R&D, Nathan? What's specific to the oligopoly market that enables that to happen? Gamer is saying dynamic efficiency, which leads to more variety of products and better quality products. Good. Okay, similar idea there. Christopher Wood is saying lower prices will lead to more consumer surplus in the market. Why would we have lower prices? Can you tell me why? Give me a bit more of the chain of reasoning that takes you to that area. And then what else have we got coming up here? Victor is saying since effectiveness of price competition is limited, non-price competition, such as quality of product, may benefit consumers as firms seek to, what's the rest of the reasoning? Firms seek to increase their market share, I guess it was going to say. Some good thoughts there. Okay, thank you. Well done. Let's have a look at the couple of advantages that we're putting up here for you. And I think we're reflecting, particularly in the first point, or the sort of higher up point on the balance here, is reflecting what a lot of you were saying, that higher supernormal profits could be used. So that's where we're starting from in our chain of reasoning, that they've got higher supernormal profits. This means they could use those to develop new and better services. There's the research and development that many of you were referring to, and that in turn could lead to dynamic efficiency in the market. Okay. Second suggestion. I apologise if some of you did come up with this. I didn't see as the ideas were spinning past so quickly. But maybe price wars, which are often typical in an oligopoly market. Again, look at the supermarkets and what's happening now with that increased strength of Aldi and Lidl. We see price wars going on. So that may result in lower prices for consumers. Okay, good work there. Now, how about disadvantages? There's an obvious one, but see if you can think of something else as well as the disadvantage of potentially higher pricing. What else can you think of? So let's look for other disadvantages. Okay, so just looking back at what you had before, Christopher said high concentration ratios will limit the choice for consumers. That's probably a nice one to see in there. What else? What else could you put in, please, as the downsides of oligopoly? Okay. Oh, sorry, my chat window got a bit stuck there, but now I can see it moving. Okay, so Kathy is saying risk of collusion. Yeah, that's a strong possibility, isn't it, as a disadvantage? Limited choice, says Summer. Limited choice due to high firm concentration of the few firms. Very good. James Yates, disadvantage, higher prices. Yeah, leads to loss of allocative efficiency. Good. You picked up Jeff's point about bringing that in, and consumer welfare. Well done. Exploitation of consumers, says Olivia. Yeah, maybe particularly if there's collusion. Okay, good. Some very good suggestions coming in there. Well done. Let's have a look at the suggestions we've got, and I think they reflect very much what was going through. So we have got there, sort of sitting on the balance of our scales, there's a risk of collusion, which means they could set higher prices, which reduces consumer surplus. Okay. And the other one we're suggesting is that there are high barriers to entry, so fewer new entrants to the market. And you could say, as a result, or consequently, there is less consumer choice. So you can develop that point. Again, thinking about the impact on consumers. Great work there. Thank you. Some really good answers coming through. Well done to all of you.
Brilliant stuff. A fantastic evening. Just still looking at some of these answers that are scanning through. Absolutely brilliant. And even when we got to some of those tougher questions that required slightly longer answers, some really, really good responses. Thank you to everybody who took part tonight. Normally when I've been doing these things, I've been writing down one or two names just to give a shout out at the end. But there's been so many tonight, I've not been able to do that. So thank you for doing that. Like I said just before we started, if you have found tonight useful, please do give us a thumbs up in YouTube. That helps us get our message out there. A quick reminder about the other things I mentioned. The PowerPoint we've used will be available for you to download if you want to go through some of the answers yourself as soon as this live stream finished. And of course, we've been recording this. And the last thing is to remind you that this is just the first of our 2024 series of revision blasts. We'll be doing them as many weeks as we can between now and those exams. So we've got plenty of live streams left to come. And we're doing aggregate demand and aggregate supply next week. Same time, Tuesday at 6:30. So it'd be lovely to see you then. Massive thank you to Jeff and to Penny for delivering those activities tonight. Again, a thank you to everybody who took part. We look forward to seeing you again very, very soon. Goodbye, everybody.
Cheers, Nab.
Bye.